Thanks for joining us on the teacher feature of the Nancy Peters Show on Southbridge Street Live. Each week, we try to bring a teacher from a different area so you can learn more about what's going on in their world, in their classroom, in their school. We are featured and sponsored by The Box, and we really appreciate The Box Coffee Bar for sponsoring us, and they have lots of good coffees, teas, lattes, so check them out. Well, welcome. We have Mr. Jordan Shott from St. Joseph High School with us, and he teaches science, and we're going to get right into this. Well, welcome to the teacher feature.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited about this, so just tell us where have you taught?
Sure. I've taught at the University of Texas at Dallas, where I taught an Intro to Bio undergraduate class, and then also more recently at Plano East Senior High, where I taught IB biology in the academic decathlon before coming here to St. Joe.
All right. Now that you've hit us with some of those subjects, tell us about what you're teaching here.
Sure. So at St. Joe this year, I'm teaching freshman biology and biology honors, and I'm teaching 2 sections of AP environmental science. And then new this year is an elective biotechnology. So it's a busy schedule, but I wouldn't really have it any other way. Yeah.
Okay, well, and fill us in, because I understand there's lots going on in these classrooms and you've partnered up with some other areas. So if you could just fill us in.
Sure. More recently, and they're on my mind right now because the AP Environmental Science students just took their AP exam. And I think it was a record number. I think we had 29 or 30 students sit in to potentially get college credit. And kind of, I'm getting a general vibe that they did pretty well. So that makes me happy as a teacher. This is a fun one this year with AP Environmental Science. Honestly, it's my first year teaching it. I have some background in it. But one of the things that I think makes it unique is we partnered with a couple professors at the University of Houston, Victoria, who were interested in some of the local research for what Victoria does with their waste here. How do they dispose of it? Does that affect water? Can you take a GPS and get aggregate data on where this waste collects? And if you put that in on a topographical map, what does it all mean? What data can we garner for this? And those kind of contacts led me to involve some of the students here. And what was so funny is it was the day of their prom, and I was like, we really need you here because this is a day that, Victoria's going to be out and we need you for this research. And luckily they showed up. I had to incentivize them with like a s'more party. They loved it, but I think we're getting some valuable data, and also students are, science is nothing if it's just in a textbook. It must be hands-on. Mm-hmm. And I think that being able to get data like that, I think they found it really valuable and fun too, because there was quite a turnout.
Great. Just not of those students, but of other groups were there also, or was this one just up to the St. Joe students?
Sure, no. St. Joe was there, and a few other schools were represented there as well. And big props to UHV and their coordination. It's neat when we can all get together and work on a common thing.
And share so much knowledge and data. That's a pretty big deal.
Absolutely.
And the students are funny. I'm sure they had a lot of comments as they're doing different research and different bits of information. So is there, when does all this get pulled together? Like, is there going to be a final end of the day, a date set for knowing the results?
See, now I think with the publication writing, I'm not sure the timeline on that because someone else, I'm not the primary author, but I know that that we had a pretty big role in kind of helping move that along. But I think we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But
okay.
Yeah, we've been out there, this not just once, but several times, several opportunities.
I'm impressed that you got them there on prom day, especially when many of the ladies had appointments for hair and all, so that's impressive. Well, what do you see as some of the challenges with teaching?
Sure. So challenges with teaching, there are many. I think really it's resonating with the students, how to get the students engaged. Teaching now versus I think the way it has been even when I've grown up, so much has changed in technology. Now you've got cell phones in every student's hand. When I was in high school, back when I had a cell phone maybe my senior year, and it only had a few buttons. But now the way I think students get information is so fast. Scrolling through Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. I think students' minds move at like light speed right now, way faster than. So at the same time, when you ask them to read a book, open up a textbook, and they're reading paragraph by paragraph, that comes, I think, at an incredibly slow pace to the processing that they're doing on their cell phones every time. So some of the challenges are getting students to say, hey, put down the Snapchat, right, and almost regulate yourself, knowing when technology is good to use and when it's time to engage in real life. So it's that balance of the opportunity that internet technology brings us and responsible use. I'm really trying to promote that at St. Joe is being a good digital citizen, being responsible. So that's kind of an emphasis that for this coming year I'm gonna focus on.
Great. And they're always up for learning something, especially with the phone. They're always, I really get that makes a difference. When I was teaching, it was always made a difference with the phones.
Sure.
So, well, where do you kind of see science heading?
Sure. So in the near term, science is really data driven, and I think what the most important points are, and what I try to evoke in the students that I teach is being a critical thinker. You have to be able to think for yourself. If somebody hands you something, you just can't blindly believe it, but you need evidence to support that. And I'm sorry, the question, I think I lost you there. Where
Science is, yeah.
Sure. So where we're going in the future with that, I want them to be able to process data, be able to look at figures. Say you get, Victoria Advocate or New York Times or some publication, and you see certain trends and, some saltwater fish, they're on the decline. What can you extrapolate from that? Graphs and figures tell us so much more. Mm-hmm. And a big challenge that I've seen, not just here, but in other schools, Dallas, otherwise, it's getting students to see through a lot of facts and figures and come up with their own narrative. So that is one of I think the things that we're looking for in the long term. So science, being able to look at statistics. I mean, if these kids, I know they stay up late playing Fortnite, they know the figures and the strategies. Why don't we take that enthusiasm and apply it for research and design? For sure.
That's great. And that would pique their interest once they realize that's how they can do it themselves rather than everything I seem so complicated with the charts.
Absolutely, and if I may, one of the new electives that we have this year is biotechnology. That is really what the emphasis of the class is. It's looking at some of the current technological trends, in the past 30, 50 years, like DNA analysis. This is really cool. Our biotech group is about 15 students. This is a small class, but one of the cool things we did very recently was we took this green fluorescent protein from a jellyfish, and we put that DNA inside this harmless strain of E. coli. So we did this heat shock transformation. We got the bacteria really warm, really cold, and then really warm again, just enough that jellyfish gene could be inserted inside. And we let the bacteria grow. Now we got to see this like really almost like a neon green effect from the bacteria, and that's where science comes alive. It's where you can see it in a lab. But it seems fun. It's a color change. but the underlying genetics there is something that that needs to be in the classroom more, because looking at with the future of possible genetic profiles, what does your genetics mean? I think having a glimpses of that now in high school is going to serve them well. Yeah.
Yes. And there seems to be more and more talk about genetics, and so that's really for them to learn at this time the importance of that. It's going to make a huge difference.
Especially, yeah, if many of these students, many do have aspirations of going into maybe pre-med or some other field of science, and genetics is one that's relatively new, and we've got lab techniques that we could be doing right now and getting them kind of a head start for their college ambitions. Sure.
Great. I remember one time when they were trying to check out our blood type, and they were wanting to do blood. They were also excited about that. And that was fun for them and for those of us who were willing to be the guinea pig. So.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So, what can parents do to help make a difference?
Sure. So parents, I'm a parent myself. I've got a 4-year-old Desmond. I told him I'd say hi today. Hi, Desmond.
All right.
He, parents, I think what you can expect, what you would want to know. You parents need to provide support. I know that being a student is not easy. You're charged with long hours of homework, and that's after your athletic practice. So I think what parents can do, or the community can do, is just be supportive. But at the same time, you want to not to be suffocating. At the same time, you've got to let your child or your student have room to grow. One of the things that really impacted the way I think about things is I mess up a lot. I fail a lot. And sometimes it's in that failure, it's the times where you mess up, you learn, hey, I don't have to do it like this again. I'm going to change it up. I'm going to be, do it a version 2.0 the next day. So being allowed to fail is something that's important for them. And I think support, but also a reasonable distance to have that potential failure is something that parents can do.
My best learning times were my failure times, whether it was in how to behave or my studying that I did or didn't do, or those just great lessons that we all need.
Sure, yeah.
And sometimes parents, in a protective mode, when maybe do want to jump in too quickly, I guess it's all a learning curve for all of us. Yeah.
Absolutely, and what I've noticed here, we've got a great group of kids at St. Joe. It's that they are so much more resilient and capable than we know. And some of the best designed lesson plans are where you have kind of a toolbox and you give them some creative license and just see what they come up with. I mean, that surprises me all the time, but giving a little bit of freedom, kind of loosening up a little bit and letting them take the driver's seat has been fun to watch.
Yeah. We learn so much from our students. That's really a gift that they give to us, as we learn a lot from them. Well, if you had to maybe give advice to someone who may want to become a teacher, what would you say?
Sure. Teaching is not for the faint of heart. It's kind of like a mental and physical CrossFit. I mean, you're there on your feet. You're engaging. You're circulating. It's constant attention. So your brain has to go in many different directions at once. Modern teaching, you're not just behind a desk sitting there grading papers, but it's being in the mix with students. So what advice I'd give them, I'd say you have to be, you've got to know your content, but you've got to be resilient. You have to almost, you have to have a presence about you too, one that allows you to hold interest in students, because trust me, their attention, as you know, will vary. And I would say, but but it's fun. I would tell any aspiring teachers to consider it. It is a fantastic job. It is a wonderful job. I've been in school a long time, and I like the academic calendar. So I feel like if you're a curious sort, as I am, that's what that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. It's like, what can I do interesting, fun? How can I change this a little bit and then tinker with that? I would support it. I think we need more good teachers. So that's some advice. Be tough, know your stuff, engage with students. Don't be afraid. You're gonna mess up, and that's okay. And if you're real with the students, they're gonna roll with it too.
And I liked when you said fun. As teachers, if we can go saying, hey, we're really going to have some fun today, then it really helps the atmosphere in the classroom. Because the students like that. They are funny. They come up with a lot of funny comments. And if we can roll with that and enjoy their comments. So the other thing, too, is that students really want to know we care. And when a teacher can go and show that they care and keep the sense of humor. I remember saying one time, gosh, I wish I hadn't done that to my whole class. They burst out laughing because it's funny when a teacher says, oh my gosh, or, oh wait, I said that wrong, erase. So it's good for them to see our human side.
1,000%. It is. You when you're at the front of class or you're walking around, I mean, you have to take ownership of stuff. I'm super clumsy. Sometimes I'll trip over a desk but you have to keep going with it. It's not that matters. It's, and students have a keen sense of that. So, but students are funny too, and their humor is in new ways. I know what the rage now here and many other places is these memes. So after a test, it's not uncommon to see some sort of meme, and I kind of lean into that too, because if that's kind of where the humor's going, well, you know what? I'm kind of funny too, so I'm gonna meet them there as well.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a student give you some advice?
So yes, and this is a funny story. So last year we offer a summer camp at STJ. There's a summer science camp. We have one this year, but I had this whole assortment of fun science activities ready to go. One of them was, we had this bran flake cereal, and it says fortified with iron. Okay, well, what happens if we break the flakes up, put it in some water, and then get a magnet? Sure enough, we found small iron filings and things. We're doing these fun things, and I'm talking about it, and this is open to I think 5th through 8th graders. And one student raised his hand, very innocently, and was like, Mr. Shott, I really like doing all the experiments, but could you talk a little bit less? And he meant it so sincerely. And you know what? It's stuff like that where you got to dial it back and be like, okay, you know what? You see what really matters to them. And again, science comes alive when it's in practice. And I'm blessed that I'm in a field where we get to go outside and get to find new things. We get to make discoveries. And science, too, it's current. I mean, I get publications, Nature, Science. I read the recent articles every day, or every year when the Nobel Prize is released. I'll put class at a grinding halt, and we'll talk about what's new. So I think, and I know I'm kind of getting off target, but part of the profession is fun because it's inventive, and you have some you have some creative license there.
And I think even those journals, having those out, that's great. Make them aware of so much more than just what's in the classroom. And we really hope that in the classroom that when we're doing experiments and stuff that they are following the rules and are not going to, one time a student actually burned his clothes because he wasn't doing what he was supposed to. So we never know.
Sure.
Are there ways that the community can help make a difference, or different businesses maybe could team up?
Well, yes. Actually, what was really neat very recently, I know our local HEB had reached out to us to celebrate Earth Day. They wanted to grab, and this is, I extended this to the environmental science class. They had this campaign to collect plastic bags, and I thought that was really cool. They emailed me, and I said, yes, we totally want to do this. So we had like maybe a week-long morning announcements go on, and I think in total we collected maybe around 1,300 bags. Mm-hmm. Some people had, because plastic bags, Target or Walmart, they make great little trash bags, but oftentimes they accumulate. This was a really neat one because with that, that kind of inspired other things that we can do. I know with that successful plastic bag campaign, we now have moved on to planting trees. So I'm kind of looking currently right now at some of the nurseries. We, especially after Harvey, we lost some trees. So I'm having students kind of narrow down which ones they're interested in. But yeah, either way, whether it's HEB kind of showing us that we can save, we can grab plastic bags for a good reason, to which they recycled, mm-hmm. and whether or not planting trees, having a strong local community, really helps an educator.
And I think a lot of businesses do like to step up, and I know in the past there's also been some businessmen have come in and maybe help do some mentoring and in public school as well as at St. Joe. Mm-hmm. Well, if you had any last words maybe to add here, anything for education or for science or for your summer science program workshop?
Well, nothing in particular, but I will say that that what we do, and this show is kind of looking at education and teachers. It's a good job, and I have a blast. It's fun going to school each day, and talking with I think nearly 150 kids that walk in and out of my door on a daily basis. So it's a day-to-day thing. And then next year I'll have a different set of students. So I think I want to say that what's satisfying to me is I know that 12 years from now I'm going to be picking up a can of green beans in HEB again or something like that. I'll be seeing in a mundane place. I'll come across a former student, and that student may say, "Hey, Mr. Shott, I'm a graphic designer now," or "Hey, I make replaceable parts for this oil pipeline." Mm. And I think what makes it so satisfying to me is that you can say that, "Hey, I helped shape this young person to, in maybe some influential way, guided them to what makes them happy, what they like to do." So in that sense, yeah, teaching's great.
It's kind of a job that keeps on giving. We see the rewards many years later, which is a wonderful thing. Well, I really want to thank you, Mr. Shott, for joining me here on the teacher feature and for your enthusiasm. And
My pleasure.
Thanks. And we want to encourage you to think about teaching. It's great, and you need to take your sense of humor and your awe at what students can do, can learn, and appreciate that they really do make a difference in our lives. They bring us a lot of joy. When we're teaching, we get a lot of joy. So, and we want to thank the Box as our sponsor, and would like to remind you also, have a great day, but when you see a teacher, say thank you.